Today I managed to create 5 new poses. Some of them were surprisingly easy, and some were quite challenging. That's always how it goes, honestly. Pose making can swing between feeling effortless and borderline impossible depending on the complexity and what you're trying to express. Still, I'm happy with how they turned out. I've reached a point where I can finish a single pose in about 4 minutes, which I think is pretty fast. A lot of creators take longer, especially those still learning or who aren't fully familiar with how Blender rigs work. The truth is, unless you're experienced and understand how bone structure functions within the rig, it's going to take time and a lot of trial and error. But I've been doing this for a while now, and over time, I've picked up a few hacks that make things faster and smoother for me. One of those tricks has to do with hidden bones in Blender. In both older and newer versions of Blender, there are certain bones that just don't show up by default. You'll only see them when a sim is actually loaded into the blend file. I don't know if there's a way to make those bones visible while using standard working rigs, but I haven't figured it out yet. So my workaround is to copy the pose to my sim and manually adjust those areas, like doing some subtle forearm twisting, for example. And yes, that kind of movement exists in real life. If you lift your arm and twist it, you'll notice that it's not just your upper arm rotating. Your lower arm is involved too. These kinds of small but realistic motions are often overlooked in pose creation. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this perfectly. English isn't my first language, but I hope you understand what I mean. These little anatomical details matter more than people realize. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Pose creation requires a lot of patience, especially when you're just starting out. When I look back at my first year, I wasn't exactly proud of my work. I struggled a lot, and my poses were far from polished. But I kept going. I learned from my mistakes. And now, I can confidently say I've become really good at what I do. When I have the time and the right mindset, I can even tackle the hardest types of poses. Some of them are nearly impossible to replicate in The Sims because of how limited the rig is compared to a real human body. But I enjoy the challenge. The Sims rigs have clear boundaries. There are things you can't do, which forces you to get creative. It becomes this little puzzle. How can I make this pose work within the limits but still look natural and expressive? One thing that constantly frustrates me is seeing experienced creators make the same anatomy mistakes over and over again, especially with arms. These aren't beginners either. They've been around, they're selling their content, and yet they still don't seem to fully understand how limbs are supposed to move. That kind of laziness drives me a little mad. If you're selling your work to people, please make the effort to do it correctly, learn the basics of bone movement, study human anatomy, or even better, try the pose on yourself before you recreate it. Ask yourself, how does my arm naturally fall if I move like this? Or what parts of the body are involved in this twist? And let's be clear, I'm not talking about clipping. Clipping happens, and sometimes it's unavoidable, especially when someone uses your pose on a sim with a completely different body type. For example, I use the base rig, which is shaped like a standard sim. If someone applies that pose to a much chubbier sim, of course there will be clipping. That's not the creator's fault. What is a problem is when a pose is broken, like an arm bent the wrong way, or a leg that doesn't even connect right. That's a creator issue. I've brought this up a few times on Instagram, and I'll be honest, it really gets under my skin. Some creators are just pumping out poses without really caring about quality. They don't test them, they don't adjust them, they just want to say, here's my pose set, and be done with it. Some even build poses on heavily sculpted sims, the kind that have unrealistic sliders and reshaped bodies, and then just resave those poses onto a base rig without checking if they still work. Sure, it looks great on their stylized sim, but it might look completely off or broken on a regular in-game sim. I see this kind of stuff a lot, and it's disappointing. Personally, I always take my time. I look at the leg positions, how the arms bend, the tilt of the head, the way the spine curves. Every detail matters to me. I genuinely respect creators who approach their poses this way. People who care about accuracy, fluidity, and emotional expression. Because even though pose making might look simple, it's not. Not at all. It takes time, skill, and emotional energy. And sometimes it just drains you. There have been plenty of times where I spend an entire week working on a pose pack, and by the end of it, I'm burned out. My mind is tired. My creativity is shot. So I take a break. Sometimes for a week, sometimes for 2. During those breaks, I focus on other creative things, like making tattoos, rendering my Sims, or writing stories. I let my brain reset so I can come back refreshed and inspired. That's the reality of pose making. It's art. It's emotion. It's trial and error. It's patience. It's learning anatomy through observation and practice. And above all, it's dedication. If you don't care about the final result, don't expect people to respect your work. But if you do care, if you take your time and create with heart, trust me, it shows, and people will notice. Also, one big thing I didn't mention is using reference images. I can't stress enough how important it is to look at real photos or videos when you're making poses. Whether it's fashion photos, dance moves, or just people hanging out, seeing how real bodies move helps a lot. Sometimes I even watch movies or animation to catch cool poses or expressions. And poses aren't just about where you put the arms and legs, they're about emotion too. How you hold your hands, how the head tilts, how the spine curves, all those little things tell a story. Like, a sad pose isn't just someone sitting, it's how their whole body sags and closes in on itself. If your pose doesn't show feeling, it looks flat. Another thing beginners miss a lot is symmetry. Humans don't stand or sit perfectly balanced most of the time. One shoulder is higher, one hip sticks out, weight shifts to one side. Adding small asymmetry makes your poses look natural, not stiff or robotic. Also, facial expressions. I know a lot of pose makers skip this because Sims facial rigging is tricky, but pairing your pose with the right expression makes everything so much better. If you can't do it in Blender, do it in-game with Cass. Making poses for 2 or more Sims interacting is a whole different level. You have to think about how their bodies connect, where their eyes meet, how their hands touch. It takes a lot of back and forth to get it right, and it's way harder than making a solo pose. For the really advanced creators, some even turn their poses into animations, like walking, hugging, or fighting. That takes a lot more time and skill with keyframes and timing, but it's super rewarding. Testing poses in-game is a must too. You have to try your poses on different body types: fat Sims, tall Sims, male, female, and check if clothes or accessories clip or if the pose still looks good under different lighting or camera angles. This can save a lot of headaches later. Organizing your pose packs is important as well. Giving your poses clear names that explain what they do helps people find them easily. Also, making nice preview pictures or thumbnails is something users appreciate a lot. There are also some handy Blender add-ons like Pose Helper or tools to manage hidden bones, which can speed up the workflow and give you more control for those tiny details, like fingers or toes. On a personal note, I often look back at my old poses and remake or fix them because I'm always learning. Seeing how much you improve is motivating and helps you grow. One thing that's frustrating is content theft. Some people steal poses without credit, so many creators protect their work with watermarks, clear terms of use, or by sharing on trusted platforms like Gumroad or Patreon. Sometimes collaborating with other creators, like machinima makers or CC artists, pushes you to make better poses and try new things. It's cool to work with others who have different ideas. Lastly, mental health is huge. Creating poses can be exhausting mentally and emotionally. There's pressure to keep making content, but it's important to take breaks and pace yourself so you don't burn out. All in all, creating poses is a huge amount of work. And honestly, some people just don't realize that. I remember this one time I was chatting with a girl who always said she didn't get why pose creators sell their poses. She thought it wasn't a big deal or hard to make them. Then one day, she decided to try making poses herself. And after struggling with it, she actually apologized for thinking it was easy. She admitted creating good poses is much harder than it looks. And that's exactly how I feel too. Pose making takes a lot of skill, patience, and time, even if it seems simple on the surface. We have tons of pose creators now, so obviously you're going to see a lot of poses that look similar or even almost the same. But that doesn't mean anyone is copying or stealing. It's totally normal because a lot of us use the same references to create poses. Even if two creators make the exact same pose, you'll still notice differences. Everyone has their own style. Some like more dramatic angles, some prefer softer or more natural movements. The way we interpret a pose or adjust the details always makes it unique. I've also noticed some creators only work on commissions. They don't share free poses at all, just take orders from people who want custom poses made for them. That's a totally valid way to do things, and honestly, it's cool if you want to focus only on commissions. I used to do requests too, but I learned a big lesson. If I don't like the reference or the idea, I just can't enjoy making the pose. It feels forced, and that shows in the final result. Also, working on a strict deadline stresses me out. When someone says, "Make this pose in 1 week," it puts pressure on me and kills my creativity. I like having the freedom to create when I feel inspired and at my own pace. Some people say I have unlimited time to create poses, but trust me, it still stresses me out because I want to finish requests first, then go back to my own projects that I share freely with everyone. I always share my free poses on CurseForge, but I also use Gumroad to release some poses early, exclusively for people who want to support me. Usually the early access lasts for 2, 3, or maximum 4 weeks before I release the poses for free. It's not because I'm greedy or don't want to share, but because I'm trying to earn a little extra cash for myself. Making poses takes a lot of time and effort, so it feels fair to get some support from the people who enjoy my work. Speaking of money, a few days ago I had to get my wisdom tooth removed, and it cost me €188. For me, that's a lot of money. And the thing is, I'll need to get the other one taken out later, so the expenses aren't over yet. On top of that, I really want to save up for a new camera because my old one broke. Cameras aren't cheap. And no, don't suggest I just take photos with my phone. As a photographer, I'm telling you, phones can't capture the same vibe or quality. Cameras give you so much more control and detail. I won't change my mind on that. I used to make full Blender scenes too, but I stopped because, honestly, it felt like a waste of time. I didn't enjoy it as much as creating poses. Sure, making scenes can be fun, but mostly just for yourself, not for others. What I truly love is sculpting Sims. Even though I'm not an expert sculptor, I usually just smooth out small details to make my Sims look nicer and more polished. The one thing I'm really good at sculpting is nails. They always turn out perfect. When I first started creating poses for The Sims 4, it was out of pure curiosity and a love for storytelling. I never imagined it would turn into something this fulfilling and long-lasting. A creative outlet, a technical skill, and a way to connect with others around the world who love stories as much as I do. Over time, my name changed, Meow Inspire, and has become more than just a username for me. It's become a brand, a style, a signal to people that they're about to download something made with care. Because I love and care about cats. Whether it's a romantic pose pack, an emotional group scene, or a quiet storytelling moment, I always want my work to carry that spark of feeling and intention. I want players to look at a pose and immediately imagine the story behind it. For me, pose creation isn't just about aesthetic, it's about expression. It's about giving Sims players the tools to tell deeply personal stories about love, heartbreak, friendship, family, loneliness, hope. Sometimes it's just one look or gesture that captures it all. That's what I aim for. I'm passionate about storytelling through visuals, screenshots, machinima, or legacy blogs. Simmers use my poses in all kinds of creative ways, and that means everything to me. When I see my poses used in someone else's narrative, it feels like I got to play a small role in bringing that story to life. People often see the final result, a beautiful pose in CAS or in-game, and forget how much work goes into it behind the scenes. It's not just about moving arms and legs in Blender, it's about posture, emotion, subtle hand placement, facial expressions, and making sure things don't break when imported into The Sims. Every pack is the result of hours of refinement and learning. I've taught myself Blender, understood how The Sims posing system works, and figured out solutions for problems like alignment issues or accessory integration. It's been a journey filled with trial and error, but I genuinely enjoy that process. And because I know how challenging it can be to learn, I've also started making tutorials to help others who are just getting started. Helping someone else finally fix their pose or align their sim properly in Blender brings me real joy. I don't want to gatekeep this knowledge. I want to share it. We're all in this creative space together, and the more we help each other, the better everyone becomes. One of the best parts of this journey is the community I've built to run my work. Whether someone is downloading a single pose from CurseForge or supporting me on Patreon or Gumroad, I treat each interaction as valuable. I try to keep my work accessible, offering tons of free content on CurseForge while giving Gumroad supporters pose bundles. Not one, not two, but mostly 4 or 5 pose packs. In each, usually 5 poses. I always try to organize my downloads clearly, label my poses, and write helpful descriptions. I know how frustrating it can be when things are messy or vague, so I focus on making my content usable and friendly, not just beautiful, because I'm a player too, and I know what I'd want if I were on the other side. Every kind message, every comment, every person who tags me in a screenshot using my poses, it all reminds me why I do this. I don't just make content, I make connections. I've released dozens, if not hundreds, of pose packs now, and it still surprises me when I see how far I've come. What started as a small creative experiment has grown into something with real impact. My work has been downloaded over 2.7 million times. That number still blows my mind. It's easy to forget, but behind every download is a person. Someone who trusted my work enough to include it in their game, their screenshot, their story. And yet, I'm still learning, still improving, still growing. There are new types of poses I want to try, collaborations I'd love to explore, new themes to build stories around. I have so many ideas, and I'm grateful to have a platform and a community that lets me bring them to life. I'm just one person behind all this, but I've built something I'm truly proud of. I'm not just making poses for the sake of it, I'm creating a world for storytellers, for dreamers, for anyone who ever looked at their sim and thought, what if they could show exactly how they feel? So, if you're using my poses, whether it's for a screenshot, a comic, a machinima, or just to bring a moment to life, know that I'm honored to be a part of your story. Thank you for letting me do what I love.